So why did the Joker feel so terrifying in The Dark Knight? When I first watched the film, I could not really articulate the source of that fear. Of course, Heath Ledger's performance deserves enormous credit. He made the Joker feel almost real. But performance alone cannot explain everything. Acting is ultimately confined by writing. So there had to be a deeper reason why the Joker felt so disturbing. I could not explain it back then, but after rewatching the film, I think I finally can. In my last video, I argued that Bruce Wayne, not Batman, was the appropriate tool against Bane. That Bane's threat was structural, that Batman fights symptom, and that an institutional response, such as governance, capital, corporal authority, might have mattered more than a man in the mask. But that argument rests on a premise. It assumes that threat is rational. It assumes the enemy has incentives you can disrupt, a plan you can interrupt, a goal you can counter. Bane does. The Joker does not. And that changes everything, because here is what I want to argue in this video. The Joker is not simply a more dangerous criminal. He's a fundamentally different kind of actor, one that institutions are not built to process. And once you understand what that matters, then the film stops being a superhero movie. It becomes something much more uncomfortable. Before we talk about the Joker, we need to be precise about how institutions actually work. Institutions like police, courts, and even organized crime are systems built around one shared assumption: that people respond to incentives. You threaten someone with prison, they comply. You offer someone money, they cooperate. You raise the cost of betrayal high enough, and they stay loyal. The entire logic of deterrence, of negotiation, of leverage depends on this. And it works, not because people are predictable in every small detail, but because, in aggregate, they respond to consequences. They protect themselves. They value something. This is what allows institutions to function, even morally reprehensible ones. The mob operates on exactly this logic. Gotham's crime families have hierarchies, territories, rules. There are lines you do not cross, code that you abide by, arrangements that hold because breaking them is too costly. The Joker walks into that meeting in the film's opening scene. And what he says, what he implies, is simple. I don't follow that logic. That is not a threat. It is something much more unsettling. It is an announcement that there is no longer a shared framework for the conversation. Think about what the Joker actually does throughout the film. He robs banks. He blows up hospitals. He threatens civilians. He kills people seemingly at random. None of this, on its own, is what makes him terrifying. What makes him terrifying is that no one can build a model for him. He has no origin story the film confirms. No stable motive, no consistent demand. He tells 3 different stories about how he got his scars, and each one might be true or none of them might be. He claims to have no plan, then executes something that requires months of preparation. This inconsistency is not incompetence, it is a strategy. The moment you think you understand him, the moment you build a model, he invalidates it. And here is the structural consequence of that. Without a model, there is no leverage. Without leverage, there is no negotiation. Without negotiation, the institution has no tool. The Joker doesn't overpower Gotham's institutions. He renders them irrelevant. At some point, he stops looking like a criminal. He starts to resemble something closer to natural disaster. Not because he lacks intention, but because his intentions cannot be translated into institutional language. This explains why every institutional actor in the film fails to counter him. And I want to be clear, their failure cannot be ascribed to their incompetence. The police in the film are not corrupt fools. Warden is competent, cautious, and genuinely committed. Dent is brilliant and relentless. The problem is structural. The Police are bound by legal procedure and public accountability. Every action they take has to be defensible. That is not a weakness peculiar to Gotham. It is precisely what allows the institutions to function in ordinary conditions. But against the Joker, those constraints become vulnerabilities. Because the Joker doesn't operate within any framework those constraints were designed to address. You cannot negotiate with someone who has no stake. You cannot deter someone who does not value his own survival in any conventional sense. The system has nothing to threaten you with. The mob has the same problem from the other direction. Organized crime runs on incentives and risk calculation. The Joker burns half the money they give him. That image is not spectacle. It is demonstration. He is telling them and us that the game theory they rely on simply does not apply to him. Batman is the interesting exception. He operates outside former institutions. He is not bound by law or jurisdiction. He cannot be easily negotiated with or politically controlled. In that sense, he shares certain characteristics with the Joker. But there is a crucial difference. Batman has a code. He does not kill. He does not inflict unnecessary suffering. That rule introduces predictability, which means Batman is still, in a limited sense, legible. He shares the Joker's freedom from institutional constraint, but not his indifference to consequence. This is why the Joker is fixated on Batman specifically. He doesn't simply want to defeat him. He wants to push him past the line. Because if Batman kills, if that code breaks, the distinction between them disappears. Batman stops being the system's defender from outside the system. He becomes something else entirely. This is what the very scene is about. The Joker is not merely testing civilians. He's not merely testing criminals either. He's testing whether society itself can be pushed past its own framework, whether ordinary people, given enough pressure, will adopt his logic. They don't. This is the one moment where the Joker is truly defeated. But here is what I think the film is actually about. Batman is not the Joker's main target. Harvey Dent is. And understanding why makes the Joker's plan coherent in a way that his surface level chaos does not. Harvey Dent is not simply a good man in a corrupt city. He is something later. A good man produced by the system on its own terms. He operates through courts, through procedure, through public accountability. He offers what Batman fundamentally cannot: legitimacy. Dent is the proof of concept, the argument that Gotham can sustain order without relying on a figure who operates outside the law. Dent is the reason Batman can eventually disappear. The Joker understands this more clearly than Bruce does. To him, Batman is an anomaly, interesting but secondary. Dent is the real argument. If Dent stands, the system holds. If Dent falls, the system's claim to legitimacy collapses. So the Joker does not attack Dent directly. He constructs a situation designed to break him. The impossible choice, the irreversible loss. Not to kill him, but to transform him. And it works. Where law owns imposed structure, Dent replaced it with randomness. The coin is not a symbol of willpower anymore. It is the admission that justice has become indefensible. So he outsources the decision to chance. Bruce Wayne recognizes a catastrophe, but he draws a specific conclusion from it. Rather than exposing Dent's fall, he conceals it. He preserved Dent's public image. He absorbed blame himself. The system survives. Order is maintained. But it survives by suppressing the truth. This is the critical point. The Joker does not destroy the system. He forces it to survive by contradicting itself. The preservation of order becomes dependent on the distortion of reality. And if you watch The Dark Knight Rises, you know exactly where that distortion leads. So what does the Joker actually prove? Not that the system is corrupt. Not that people are secretly evil. He proves something more specific and more disturbing. That the tools institutions use to maintain order, deterrence, negotiation, law, accountability, all depend on a shared assumption. The assumption that every actor in the system has something to lose. Remove the assumption, and the entire framework stops functioning. Not because it was weak, but because it was never designed to handle actors who opt out of the game entirely. The question the Dark Knight leaves us with is not whether Gotham can defeat someone like the Joker. It does, barely, at tremendous cost. The real question is what survival cost. Whether a system that must conceal the truth about itself in order to maintain order is still the system it claims to be. Gotham survives the Joker, but only by becoming something it cannot fully admit. And that may be the most honest thing the film has to say.